Okay.
Group of kids here that want to make this proposal to have this thing. Well, we're going to have a lot of stuff before that. Can we just do them up?
Yeah, just you want this?
I can, sure.
That'd be great.
When do you want
Boy
to do it?
Scouts here to
Probably just right after
support
public
the
comment, I
disc golf.
guess.
I'd like to do it
The
before
Boy
that.
Scouts.
Okay, then.
I think they're just here to earn a badge.
I like these kids.
Oh,
let's
thank you,
do
Bill.
what we can do for them. Okay, are we about ready to get going, folks? If I can get everyone to get seated and get settled in, we're going to go ahead and begin. Welcome to our City Council meeting for, let's see, the 25th at 6:05. We're running a little bit late. Just before we get going here, I wanted to say if you wish to speak on agenda or non-agenda items, please sign up on the sheet near the entrance door to the council chambers. You'll be called to speak during the public comment section. Comments or testimony on agenda items listed under public hearing, public comment will be taken at that time. Roll call, please.
Mayor Don Williams.
Here.
My microphone not working.
There you go. Thank you. Into it.
Dick Anderson.
Here.
Still not working. Chester Norikis.
Here.
Wes Ryan.
Here.
Roger Sprague.
Here.
Susan Walke.
Here.
And Kip Ward is excused.
Are we okay to proceed, Bill? Okay, great. All right, will you please all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sprague, you wanted to say something?
Mayor and council, we have some young fellows here that are wanting to make a presentation on this disc golf thing, and I was thinking that maybe we could have them do that earlier in the session so that they can get on and do their studies.
Wow, that does not bode well, guys.
Anyway, I would like to change the order and I would make a motion that we have a
Any
change of
objection?
agenda.
All right, well then, young men, if you're willing to come to the head of the line, we'll get started with our the proposal for the disc golf. Deborah and whoever was involved. Anyone you like, sir. It's yours. I'm sorry for throwing you this curve, but I agree with Mr. Sprague. I think it's good to get these young fellows home early. So there you go. If you ever want to move fast, bring kids, and we'll get you out.
Would you like to just have the public comment on it first, and we can save our presentation until later?
Whatever works best for these young folks.
We expected that because it's not really a hearing that probably people would be speaking during public comment. So
Why don't we have the presentation, then they can comment on it, and then we've got all the information.
do you have it?
Sounds good.
Okay.
It's all yours. Thanks
All
for
right.
being flexible, guys and ladies.
I would like to acknowledge a couple people in the audience. Joseph Yorn is sitting right behind me. He's one of our park board members. And Scotty Scotton is supposed to be here. Anybody see him? No, okay. Well, I guess we're losing Scotty by moving a little too fast here. It's all right. I don't know if Joseph would like to say something. Scotty was going to forward to the council the park board recommendation. Do you want me to just do that, or do you want to say something? Okay. All right. The park board has, over the last couple of years, heard a number of presentations and had people come to speak to them about the need for a disc golf course in Lincoln City. So at one of their summer meetings, they moved to recommend to the city council that you consider having disc golf as an interim use in the villages at Cascade Head. It takes up enough land that there aren't that many opportunities within the city limits to offer this kind of activity. And because Timothy will be talking more about the details, but because it is relatively easy setup to move, it seems perfect for an interim use, and then we can be enjoying the villages in this way until such time as it needs to be replaced by something else. So Timothy has a PowerPoint presentation, and I'll let him go through that.
All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know it's already been an afternoon and probably be a long night. So yeah, disc golf. Disc golf is probably one of the fastest growing sports, certainly in the country, probably in many parts of the world. One of the reasons that it's so popular is because it really is suitable and playable for people of all ages and abilities. Because of that, it's family friendly. And I can tell you it amazes me when I mention disc golf and the idea of getting a course here in town, how many people I wouldn't have expected not only to know about it, but to have been veterans of a decade, 15 years. It's just such a wonderful sport. Have any of you ever played disc golf?
I have.
Anyone else? Anyone have heard of disc golf? Yeah, good start. Well, basically the rules and objectives are the same as with ball golf. You have a tee, and you're trying to get it to a goal. Ball golf, it's a hole. In the case of disc golf, a basket in the shortest number of throws, in this case. Let me go grab some props.
You come and talk in the microphone. Somebody's going to hear you, and then I'll move things around.
So this is a portable disc golf basket. The kind that I'll be later suggesting we install in villages are a bit sturdier, fancier, and made to handle the weather and a bit more abuse. But you nonetheless get the idea. So Deb has just passed to you some discs. You can see they're similar to a Frisbee, but they're smaller, more compact, and heavy. There's different kinds for different shots. There's long range, there's mid-range, and there's putters, and it has to do with how it flies, the accuracy, how quickly it's going to stop, whether it's going to turn, ride a hook or slice, roll, etc. So it's different from ball golf in that you don't have the manicured fairways and greens. The course is integrated into the natural setting. So I guess I would describe it as sort of a blend of the challenge and the competition of ball golf with the enjoyment and aesthetic of hiking. So some of the equipment is real basic, other than the discs, which you can usually get one for $10 to $15. They're pretty sturdy, so they last a long time. You need the baskets, and you need the tee pads. As Deborah was saying, one of the reasons that we feel this is a very appropriate interim use in the villages is because the equipment, the tee pads and the basket, if at some point there's a different use decided for the area, they can be picked up and moved to another location or sold to someone who wants to develop a course on private land, whatever the case may be. We're proposing paver tee pads, as you can see on the left-hand side. That's a picture from Stubbs Stewart State Park. It's off of, I believe, Highway 26 on the way to the coast up north. They have a 18-hole course there. And then the basket, this is a Innova basket. That's a brand. And it's the same as they have at the Newport course, which I'll get into more later. So disc golf is popular. This is a map of disc golf courses in Oregon as of August of 2015. As you can see, there's a high concentration of them in the valley, all within a fairly short distance of Lincoln City. The other thing I'd point you to is the clear lack of courses on the coast. It wasn't until 3 years ago that there were none between Coos Bay and Astoria. Since then, Newport opened Wilder with a Ford Foundation leadership through the Ford Foundation leadership program. Their project was to get a disc golf course going in Newport. Since then, each year, there's been another course added, so now there's a second one at South Beach State Park and a third one in Toledo. People who play disc golf commonly travel to play. And as you see, the Valley does have the highest concentration of courses. One of the things that I believe a course would do is bring golfers who might otherwise be undecided about where to take their next trip to Lincoln City. Currently, there's over 150 disc golf clubs in Oregon, and with thousands of members, and those are just the ones that belong to a club. That doesn't include those who play and aren't part of a club, obviously. The state parks, as you can see there in the bottom right-hand corner, finds it popular enough that they have a web page dedicated to disc golfing and have actually created a symbol so that when you're going through the parks, you can look to see which ones have disc golf. Upper left-hand corner, this is the, I'm not particularly Facebook literate, but the profile photo, I believe, of the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club, which is out of Newport and sort of has its home course in Wilder. Yes, please. How many people here are from the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club? All right, we got 3 there. Just as a follow-up, how many of you are here to support the disc golf proposal? There you go. It's a good thing. And again, you know, there's a lot of people travel to play disc golf courses. Regularly there's competitions, you know, tournaments that bring a lot of people. I believe that the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club has a Basket of Hope coming up in the near future, which is one that draws people from.
Repeat that date, because for the people at home. No, he's going to need to say it for you.
At the end of May.
Thank you.
And so the tournament is.
Memorial Day weekend. We haven't quite set it in stone yet.
Yeah, around Memorial Day weekend. And it's a tournament that raises funds for cancer research and people who are battling cancer. So there's a lot of good that comes out of it, too. And it has the potential to bring hundreds or thousands of additional trips to Lincoln City. And those people are here to spend money and support the local economy as well as enjoy this beautiful place that we call our home. And this is another way to enable them to do that, something off the beach for them to enjoy. So one of the benefits of disc golf is that currently having a course installed here, developed here in Lincoln City, is that currently the disc golfers from Lincoln City have to drive 45 minutes to South Beach to play, which means it's extra costs in gas, more time traveling, and probably a lot less time playing. We have the interim use, as Deb said, available, this land available right now for an interim use. And it's an opportunity to provide something fun, challenging, and healthy in the outdoors for Lincoln City youth, which, as I suspect we'll hear the Boy Scouts and some others attest to, there's a need for and would clearly be a benefit. Villages at Cascade Head. So where you see the red circle there towards the center, that's the approximate vicinity of where we're proposing the disc golf course be added. It's about, so I'm going to use my cursor here so the folks at home can see it. So down here in the bottom is where Fernwood is, which is currently, there's a request for proposal out to develop. It's about a half mile, let's see, where am I looking? There we go. It's about a half mile of road up to this intersection with Voyage Avenue to where we're talking about here. And while the development makes its way north through areas where the services are already in place, again, disc golf is an excellent use of this portion of the villages. Ooh la la. We are requesting approximately 32 acres be approved. Our intent is not to use or to highly develop all 32 acres. Rather, by having a larger area available to us, we can be more selective in where we choose to place the fairways, tees, and baskets so that we can minimize potential impacts with other users, as well as give a little bit extra consideration to any environmental circumstances that might arise, to be able to be more selective, to optimize the enjoyment of the villages and all of its beauty. Cost breakdown. So the baskets for an 18-hole course, about $7,000. Again, those are the top of the line, professional level baskets. They're galvanized steel.
Is that what that is?
No, this is not one. This is a very affordable basket. The top of the line ones you can see there, they're welded galvanized steel, and they have 2 to 3 layers of chains on them, and they last for easily a decade, if not more. So it's not they're very, very weather resistant. So you're not going to have to be replacing them very often. The tee boxes, that includes the pavers, the frame, the sub base, the coarse sand, etc. You're talking about $2,700. The signs, about $1,100. So just like at a ball golf course, you have a sign. It says this is hole number 1. It's a par 3. It's about 300 feet from the tee to the basket with a little map that shows you where it's at. And depending on how the course is funded, for example, in Wilder, they have sponsors for each hole, and they have a small placard with the sponsor's logo on it below the sign. You want a kiosk at the beginning to help orient people, a map of the whole course, sort of any things they need to be aware of, maybe some informational pieces, educational pieces about villages, et cetera, et cetera. It's about $1,500. The trail improvements, I put down $5,000. I would say probably at least a third of that is just contingency, because it really depends on where we run into locations where there's a need to, say, build a small raised platform over, say, some wetlands, or if we need to add some extra shoring ups to prevent erosion from occurring. The miscellaneous is also a contingency, so the cost could be less than the $18,000, but I think that's a safe upper threshold number for the cost. Let's see. Finally, support for the project. As Deb said, the Park Board is recommending this for approval. We have staff, Parks and Recreation Department, Lila Bradley included, Community and Development Department, my department, and the VCB, Ed Dreistat, has expressed his support for the project as well. Local Boy Scout Troop 47. If you guys want to raise your hands real quick. They've come in support. Thank you. Joe, who will be coming up and speaking with you shortly, has proposed as his Eagle Scout project assisting in the development of the disc golf course. The Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club, whose hands we've seen raised, here. And then, of course, the many residents and visitors who aren't here but do want this course to go in as well. So we request your approval to proceed with development of a detailed design and, if appropriate, to raise the funds for this course. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
We have one more little thing that Richard Apichello mentioned. Because this is part of an approved PUD, we will need to do a minor amendment to the PUD. And was that something we can do relatively quickly? Are we talking about a 2-month process? Or?
Well, my understanding is you don't have a detailed design yet, but I would, if you move forward with this, I would just include in whatever motion to move forward, authorize staff to make whatever land use applications are necessary in order to authorize the development of the interim use. Okay, because the use is a permitted use. Parks use in R1, is a permitted use. It's the development, the alteration of the land that needs to be given the blessing, and you need to authorize that application as the property owner. Just like when other people come to you and say, can I apply to do something on your property, you have to authorize staff to make that application. So you're basically initiating that application. It may be minor amendment, may be different, I'm not sure, but I think you should give staff permission to make the application.
Okay. Anything else? Questions?
Please.
Mr.
We're going to hear more.
Oh, I guess, but
is there
you were done.
testimony
Someone else-
Shall we move out of the way and
Well, just to
let
see if you
some
had any
people
questions
speak?
for these two folks here? Because I do, but I don't know if now's the appropriate time or not. Oh, okay. The question about who, I want to put this right, because I don't want to sound greedy, but the capitalist here is, how do we monetize this? Who gets to make some money off of this? Do we have people here who sell discs?
Not yet.
Okay, but I mean, I'm serious, is that,
I think there's going to be, there will be a lot of local businesses that will benefit, not just from the direct sales of discs, but also the restaurants,
oh, I absolutely see that too.
the pubs, the hotels and such. And so, and aside from that, as a benefit to the residents beyond the economic, though certainly I anticipate that indirect economic benefits will be significant.
I just know when I go regular golfing, it's a fairly expensive trip for balls and clubs and spikes and all that stuff. So then the next question is, are there tournaments? Will we be able to promote this with tournaments?
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's fairly common now?
Yes,
It's
particularly if you develop can be called a destination course. In other words, a course that is really well designed that people want to come and play.
And would this interim one fit that?
We intend to design it to be of that caliber, yes.
Okay, all right. And then how do we advertise that to visitors? How will they know this exists?
I imagine, I know for certain that the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club will be heavily involved in promoting the course and such. There's a lot of word of mouth within the disc golf community. So when a new course comes up, particularly if it's one that people find fun and challenging, word of mouth spreads quickly. On top of that, certainly it would be up to Ed and his staff to decide, but if it's in a city park, I suspect that the VCB could also be supportive of
I just don't want
promoting
it to be
it.
another well-kept secret like Devil's Lake.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Chester?
Oh, I just like to thank you for the presentation. It was very clear and very thorough, and it seems that we have significant support. And you did your research well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sprague?
Do you set it up like a regular golf course so that you have greens fees and that sort of thing, or how do you keep the thing maintained?
Good question. Most courses are public. Most of them are in parks of some sort, and there are no fees. It's a public good. It's a recreation activity available to the public, like Regatta Park for the youngins, for example. The maintenance is, in most courses, is all volunteers. One of the things that, if you get to know the disc golf community, is that they are avid about keeping their course clean and maintained and improving it, making it as good as they can. And that includes making sure that there's not a bunch of trash around, clearing the brush, dealing with any erosion issues, and just generally making it a positive experience. The course down in Newport, for example, the club worked with the solid waste management company down there, and they've placed trash cans at the holes that are along the road, and the trash company picks them up for free, for example.
And you mentioned the cost is $18,000 plus whatever, and then you mentioned fundraising. What's the fundraising you have in mind for this?
Well, I mean, it depends on to what extent you all are willing to fund this. If you're willing to fund none of it or some of it, well, then we will, actually, I take that back. The Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club, has offered to organize the fundraising efforts. In addition, Joe Russo of the Boy Scouts has also indicated that he is interested, he would be willing to do a lot of promotion, and I suspect that could include fundraising as well.
Are there any grants available to make this kind of a thing happen?
Probably some of the Oregon Parks and Recreation grants would be available. We have been trying to get larger grants from those sources, but we could certainly look in other places to see what's out there. The other thing that Timothy mentioned in passing is that we could have sponsorships of each hole, and that's been effective in other places. And maybe the disc golf club members can shed some light on that, their experiences from other
What's
courses.
being proposed this evening is just for us to say it's okay to go ahead and see where it goes from there?
Yeah, we're requesting approval to begin the detailed design in the meantime while you all decide to what extent you're willing to fund this, and then we can go forward based on that. Process. But in the meantime, we'd sure like to get this designed so that we're ready to go as soon as the funding is available.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll be appearing before budget to put in your final amounts, or?
I imagine we'll go through parks maintenance,
Oh, okay.
so through Lila.
All right.
There was a number of options in the memorandum that you received that were provided to me by Ron Tierney, so
Okay, great.
hopefully those will help you sort through it.
Mr. Mayor.
Anderson. Yes, sir.
So what I hear you saying, you'd hope that through the budget process, the capital improvements could be so allocated from for the holes, I guess, and so. But long-term maintenance, you didn't seem to address that, other than I heard you talk about Boy Scouts, volunteers, players, and I know from past experience the parks folks, those who work their budgets, get real nervous when things get added on to a limited budget and long-term maintenance. So have you given any thought to maybe we ask for capital improvements from the budget, but the Friends of the Disc Golf Lincoln City take over maintenance?
Again, yes, the intent is for volunteers, either the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club, in combination with solely, or maybe there'll be a new club that arises around this course. It's pretty common that, again, the folks are dedicated. They want to keep their course nice because they play it, and they want it to be the best course they can. And as far as sort of annual maintenance costs, say to buy new bark mulch or something to that effect, need to replace this or that, fundraising efforts through tournaments, and the sponsorships, again, are always an option.
Well, I guess, and I'm only bringing this up because I would like to see that, however we move forward, that formalized. Mm-hmm. So not that just it might happen, that in essence it will happen, so that we can look to the Parks and Rec budget and let them know point blank that they won't have ongoing maintenance of this new project.
A couple of years back, when I was doing research on disc golf for the city, I spoke with, I believe it was the Public Works Director of Cottage Grove, who had had a group of players put in a course in Cottage Grove, and there was some concerns, and it had gone really well. And one of the things that he sent me was a formalized agreement that was signed between the city and the disc golf club, who had agreed to take care of it. So as this moves forward, that's certainly something we could do here as well.
Mr. Mayor, sure. The other thing, I love the word interim. You know, and I'm thinking of all the agreements the city's got into where I wish we had included one last line, like when the contract expires, you will be annexed. would have been nice. Little things that, still burn in my memory. This is one that I think needs to be real clear, that interim is great, and I don't know when it would end, but it's a PUD, it's a housing PUD. Because I'm still remembering as neighbors get used to the treed lot next door to their house, and then they create havoc for a developer when the developer wants to build something on that. And I 20 years out, I don't want that to be an issue when we call this, interim. So we need to make some real clear paragraphs in agreements, if we can, so that doesn't happen, that the priority in this area is housing, and we need to make way for that. And
I'm sure our excellent city attorney will be able to come up with some language that will certainly protect the city's
and if you want, you
interest in
can
the
put
future.
a date when you want to rethink it and see if it still is satisfactory to continue it, or every 5 years, or before if circumstances change and you decide to sell part of the villages.
But you and I won't be here when we get to that. But I like to get those things in and clearly understood, because I think it's a great purpose and use. So I'm all for that. I'd just like to get everything on the table,
right?
So those who come after us don't have to fight the fight.
Understood.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm assuming that this would end up being a city parks-sponsored project. I may be wrong, but I'm thinking about the liability exposure that goes with people tramping around through the woods and chasing their discs and that sort of thing, with the potential of getting hurt on city property. I would assume that we end up assuming that liability unless we can transfer it somehow.
We're protected from, right now, the property is available for interim park use. We charge no fee. When you charge no fee, you're protected by the Oregon statute's immunity provision for recreational use of land. So our use, our allowance of recreational use, interim recreational use of that property for no fee, we fall under the immunity statute. So someone gets injured, we're immune. Now, if we have a tournament out there and we say you get a special events permit, and if we charge any fee or concession or something, you're going to lose that immunity for that event. But when we have those kind of special events, we usually require insurance and hold harmless for the participants and everything else. So we usually cover those things through the existing structure that we have.
Cool.
Anyone else? Great.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I'd like to thank the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club for their advice and their help, and I thank the Boy Scouts, Troop 47, for their help and support for this project.
And we had more folks to hear from yet? That's right.
I believe there are a few folks who want to come up here and
Come on
speak.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, Tim. And Deborah. Thank you.
That's a good sound to hear, by the way.
Oh.
I don't know how you want to organize this.
Shortly.
Ben is on call. Maybe if that's okay.
Come on up, Ben. Yeah, this was 1, 2, 3. So all we need you to do is state your name and stay near the mic.
My name is Ben Mead. I'm a child and family therapist in the area. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. I work 2 days a week at the Taft School-Based Health Center. I think if we're able to get an 18-hole disc golf course here, it could give the kids another opportunity to do something, to have a club, to look forward to something after school. To golf in the rain it's really hard. To disc golf in the rain, it's not as hard. And so I think that it being kind of us getting a lot of rain over here, I think that kids could play through that, and kids could really take advantage of that. I think, especially in the wintertime, we have a lot of kids with idle hands, and then it gets them into trouble. if they had something to do, if they had an awesome disc golf course to go to, I think it would help keep kids out of trouble and keep them occupied.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Next. Again, if you would just state your name and stay close to the mic.
Jason Niemer, the president of the Central Oregon Coast Disc Golf Club.
Thank you, Jason.
I got introduced to disc golf way back in the early 90s, and it was already popular back then. And I'm from Wisconsin in the Midwest, and you know, in the winter it gets really cold, and it was just another thing to do outside. But since I've started playing disc golf, it just got more and more popular, and I was expecting it to maybe wane at some point, but it never really did. And now it's the second largest sport in America. I mean, as far as an activity is concerned, pickleball is number one, but disc golf is the second largest like recreational activity out there. It's grown exponentially, and Tim did a really good job of covering the sheer amount of disc golf courses that have been put in Oregon and all over the United States and the world. Honestly, it's a very, very popular sport. One of the reasons is because anybody can do it, really. It doesn't take an insane amount of athletic ability, and you can. It's just, for me, it's just a really good walk in the woods. Get out there and get some fresh air and see the nature, and that's become my passion over the years. So I just wanted to say that.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Any questions? Great. Thank you. Next. We're up to our scout guests here.
I was going to say, there was a young man for his Eagle project. Yeah.
Come on forward. Oh, please.
I'm his grandfather.
Again, if you just give us your name and
Sure.
stay
My
close
name
to
is
the
Robert Moore. I live in Lincoln City.
mic. Closer to the mic, please, Robert.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Robert Moore. I live in Lincoln City. I'm retired. I help the Scouts. I was taking some Scout training this weekend in Eugene, and another person there was an active member of, well, he was actually a vice president or something of one of the clubs in Eugene. And I had mentioned to him about our project here and wanting to get it done. And he was very enthusiastic. He says their people love to do tournaments outside of the Eugene area and to bring tournaments in. He says they're looking at making a circuit that can be followed all summer long of tournaments in the Oregon area, and would love to have some along the coast to go to. Right now, there aren't that many. As I understand it, the ones in South Beach and those are smaller courses than the 18-hole course they're projecting here. And from what Tim has told me, the growth and the trees and that kind of stuff are, when you play golf, you have obstacles. They're obstacles for the course. Okay. As far as maintaining it, the way they do it there is the club maintains it as part of their duty for having that. He says some of the ones in their area, they have several evidently, are on private land and they're charged, but they do have a public one there too that they use quite a bit. At the same time, now I know nothing about disc golf. I have never been introduced to it or influenced until this project came up, but I do have a friend who lives in Salem who is extremely active in it also. And they travel during the summertime, and I asked him about the winter, and he says they love to go disc golf in the rain. He said, you've heard of dancing in the rain? Well, it's the same thing. And they bring quite a few people into their areas. They might have 100 families come in for a tournament. So that, to me, is a different age group than what we're attracting now, because I think it's more of the 20 to 30-year-olds. And from a meeting I attended the other day at the Kiwanis, the age group that we're attracting now doesn't fit that. So I think it has the chance of bringing in a different age group and attracting those people to Lincoln City to stay here rather than to go to wherever they do go. So I think it's
Great idea.
It's a great prospect for Lincoln City And not only our kids, but the younger parents here to go out and share that with their kids. I think that would be a fantastic opportunity.
Quick question, maybe you can't answer this, but Timothy might be able to. Will this be handicap accessible?
So generally, because of the challenging terrain, a whole course is not ADA accessible, but the Professional Disc Golf Association's design guidelines strongly encourage and recommend that at least a few holes be made ADA available. And fortunately, in the lower part of the area that we're proposing or requesting approval for, a lot of it has roadbeds, old roadbeds that run through it, and it's fairly level in spots. So I anticipate we could at least get a few holes that would be solidly ADA accessible.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome. Anything else, Robert?
Well, I know the scouts have used that property out there. We do orienteering and that kind of thing out there. So it's a very friendly area. I mean, we don't have a lot of problems out there with animals and that kind of stuff. I do find a lot of trash out there, and I think just by having it cleaned up and people that are concerned about it, I think that will eliminate some of the problems we have with trash out there, because it is out there.
Any questions? Great. Thank you, Robert. And then our scouts next. Welcome. If you have to state your first and last name and stay close to the microphone, please.
I'm Joe Russo of Troop 47.
Welcome, Joe. You're doing great.
I was gonna. Yeah, for my Eagle project.
You're just talking to us. Don't worry about it.
Talk to them like you're talking to me.
Yeah.
Are you nervous? You don't need to be. Big deep breath. You're doing good. You want some water?
No.
Joe, if it doesn't work for you, that's fine, too.
Yeah. I'd just like to say that I went out to the site with Joe, and we discussed it, and he doesn't have to say anything. What I will say is I am really grateful and really excited, as I know a lot of people are, that he's willing to take this on. It's a big challenge and a great opportunity for him, and I'm sure he's going to do an excellent job.
And Joe, this is not easy, what you're doing, okay? And so I'm so proud of you for coming up and doing it. Good job. One big deep breath. Anything you want to throw out there?
Well, I would like to add on an Eagle project, the Eagle that is the wannabe Eagle is the one who actually guides and directs and gets the extra help, helps to raise the money. All right, and it's quite an undertaking. So he would be supplying a lot of the labor through other scouts and other organizations and that kind of stuff, and arranging for a lot of the work that's going to actually be done, the physical part of it. So.
Great. All right. Well, good job, Joe.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Joe.
coming forward.
Thank you.
Anyone else that was going to speak on this project? Okay, then I guess I'm going to, do I need two separate motions? One to move ahead and then the separate one for the PUD? Or just make it all?
I just think if your motion includes authorization to make whatever land use applications are necessary at the appropriate time,
Okay.
That should be enough.
And Mr. Anderson, did you want to include some kind of date certain, or do you want us for the interim issue, or?
I don't want, in a motion, I don't want to put anything in, but certainly when something comes back to us.
Okay.
Hopefully staff will include something to satisfy.
Okay, so then I'm looking for a motion to authorize, what's the group?
Staff.
Just staff, okay, to move forward with their plans, and then we also need to Mr. Avicello, if you give me the words, whatever land use application needed.
Authorize whatever land use application is necessary. I know there's a minor amendment mentioned, but I'd just say whatever necessary land use application.
Whatever necessary land use application.
I would make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call on this one? Because it's a land use thing, yeah. Roll call, please.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
Ward? Oh, I'm sorry, Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
And Norikis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good job, guys. Was that easy, huh? Well done. Thank you. Yeah. Good job. So now I guess we're back to where we started, right? Okay. So we are at employee appreciation. We're going to give some recognition to some folks who've...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Excuse me. Are we going to be using the screen later?
I think it's celebrating 20 years for somebody.
Oh, yeah, and Timothy, could I have you take the basket?
If so, if we can just move the basket, because we may not be able
Oh,
to.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very
Lots
much.
of 20s.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate it. Okay, so, Chandler, do you want to start things off here?
Yes, we have some recognitions of some terrific employees that have reached milestones in their employment with us. I'd first like to invite Officer Lake and Chief Killian to come forward.
Sideways.
Yeah. These aren't built for police officers with holsters, are they?
They're not very friendly chairs for
Just
us.
bar stools.
Mayor and city councilors, thank you for taking the time to allow me to recognize Sergeant Mike Lake and his 15 years with the Lincoln City Police Department. During Sergeant Lake's tenure, he started as a patrol officer. In 2007, he was appointed to detectives, which he served until his promotion to sergeant in March of 2012. In addition to being a patrol supervisor, he is also one of the department's firearms instructors, as well as our range master. With his prior experience as a field training officer, Sergeant Lake currently serves as the department's field training coordinator for our new applicants. And, with the influx of new officers that we're hiring, he's been a very busy man and will continue to be so for a while as we get new officers on board and stuff. So thank you again, and congratulations to Sergeant Mike Lake for 15 years. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sergeant Lake. And this is just a small token on behalf of the city, a certificate of appreciation to you for your service. I think we need an official.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Your service is much
Mike,
appreciated.
why don't you shake everybody's hand?
I'm glad I've never met you in person.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes.
Mr. Mayor, we'd like to invite Vicki Young and Debbie Mamoni to come up, please.
Mayor and Council, it's my pleasure to introduce Vicki Young. She is being recognized tonight for 20 years of service, and I have to think in 20 years you've seen a lot going on here. Vicki was hired in 1995 with the VCB as an admin assistant. She worked for the VCB about 11 years, and in 2007 she switched over to the finance department. She is our accounts receivable permit processor. Did I get that right? She processes all of our occupational tax permits for all the businesses in the city. She also sends out the quarterly transient room tax returns and tracks that we get those submitted back. She also provides customer service to utility billing by answering phone calls and questions and people walking in to make payments or other questions. That's most of it. I've got the major tasks. Doing good. Yeah. Oh, and works closely with Timothy on the VRD licenses as well. Thank you. Vicki lives with her husband and a very cute dog in the middle of a golf course, and I've always thought her dog was very lucky to live in a place where there's always somebody throwing a ball up in the air to be chased. How cool is that, right? One thing I always associate and remember about Vicki are the wonderful doggy birthday parties she throws. If you're ever invited to one, be sure to go. Between the food and the wine and the doggy antics and Vicki's bubbly enthusiasm, it's a real hoot. But in seriousness, though, the one thing I most appreciate about Vicki is her consistent and constant positive attitude and cheery, bubbly nature. She always has a smile on her face. It's great to walk in and see that when you're not necessarily wanting to go to work that day. And she maintains this despite a job where, that's just not infrequent when you might get a call from an angry customer and kind of have to get an earful. But despite all that, she maintains a very positive and cheerful attitude, which I will always remember about you. So thank you for your 20 years, Vicki. And do you have any comments?
No, it doesn't seem like 20 years. It seems less.
Well, we're so grateful you're here, and I want to just echo, you're the first person I see when I walk in to City Hall, and there's always a smile, always something pleasant to say, and I know it's not an easy job, but just thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you.
All right. Again, we have a small token of appreciation. You guys good?
Are you good?
Yeah.
Hello again. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, it is my great pleasure to present Kurt Olson, who has reached 20 years in working with the city. It's a fascinating story for him. Most people don't know that he actually began working for the city in the 1980s as a lifeguard. And he also learned to water ski at off the Devil's Lake Sandpoint in 1959. In 1991, he was hired to fill the position of Engineering Division of the Public Works when the office was over on East Devil's Lake Road. He managed the remodel of this building and eventually oversaw the daily operations of the Public Works as the operations coordinator. In 1995, he took his first of two sabbaticals from employment with the city and was hired by the Oregon Coast Aquarium during the Kiko and Free Willy years and returned in 1998 as the city's first urban renewal director. It was during this time that he was instrumental in initiating the String of Pearls program that revitalized 6 historic business districts in Lincoln City, for which he was nominated for the National Distinguished Leadership Award of the American Planning Association, and the improvement project on Southwest 51st Street, which was selected as the Streetscape Improvement Project of the Year for Oregon. He went on his second sabbatical for a 2-year contract as the executive director of Medford Urban Renewal Agency, and then returned once again in 2006. I don't think we've ever had anybody who has 3 times become employed by the city. He was president of the State Association of Urban Renewal Agencies, has been featured in the Oregon Business Magazine, recognized as Oregon's Professional Planner of the Year, and was recently selected by the Secretary of Interior to serve on the Coastal Oregon Resource Advisory Council. He's also served, in addition to his city duties, as a Little League coach, Scout troop leader, served his 20 years as a volunteer firefighter, including an assistant chief, and was founding member of the water rescue team. Now, perhaps most significant for all of us is that he has completed over 130 projects for the city or for the Urban Renewal Agency over the course of his career. So I'm very pleased to present Kurt, to you for 20 years of very fine service.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. You also failed to mention, though, that he owns a yacht club.
Okay. You're up.
Very good. Appreciate all
Congratulations.
I'm the only one who's been able to work with you.
It is my great pleasure to present to you Mr. Ron Tierney, who has reached 25 years of service with the city. Not only does he have a really great first name, but he has a very distinguished career here with the city. It's interesting, as I was putting together some background information, I found that there's one title that perhaps fits better than any other, and it is the title of every great financial planner, magician. And I would have to say that Ron is a master magician. When you look at the projects that he has been involved with, and Lyle and I went back to 2000, and this is not all, but it's a pretty good sampling. He has helped to fund and find funding for the city in water projects of $16.7 million, in sewer projects of $30 million, in transportation projects of $6.7 million. The library expansion was $1.2 million. The community center has been $3 million. The urban renewal agency, and I know this one is not completely comprehensive, is $4 million. All of these different projects were made possible because of Ron's financial genius, and I'm very appreciative of that. And then more fun than that, it was, as I was doing a little bit of write-up on his background, I found that perhaps the best compliment we can give to him are the comments from his fellow employees. These are some of the comments that we received. The city is in great shape financially now because of his conservative approach to budgeting. These, again, are all comments from his fellow employees. He is a property tax guru. The guy is a living archive of city projects. Every department knows they can run something by him and he will remember the projects. All of the city councils have deeply trusted him, his insight, his advice, and trusted that he wouldn't cram anything down their throats. He's been introduced as the city's financial planner, but as an all-around good guy as well. In 2013, Ron saved the city over $1 million when he worked to refinance the sewer bonds. And perhaps my favorite quote of all is, when Ron talks, be quiet and listen. Seriously, don't interrupt, just let him talk, absorb everything he has to say. So I present to you Mr. Ron Tierney, who has reached 25 years of service with the city.
Just a couple of things. When I started in 91, we were down at the old Taft Fire Hall, which is now the museum. So this was a great addition in 93. Probably the second thing is the biggest change that's happened around here is technology. And it's blown right by me. I mean, I'm just a little bit anymore, but this city has made huge advances in technology and enables the staff to really do a good job.
Well, we weren't going to say anything. Oh, Ron, this isn't enough, but it's what I have. Thank you, Ron.
You're not retiring, are you, Ron? You're going to be around another 25 years,
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Chandler. Appreciate that very much. It's a nice break.
Did we miss Lila?
No, that was changed.
Oh, okay.
We'll give everyone a second to file out. Thank you again to the Scouts. All right. Well, we're at the presentation part of the show here. Port of Newport, Mr. Kevin Greenwood, General Manager.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kevin Greenwood. I'm the General Manager at the Port of Newport, and I'd like to introduce Walter Chuck, who is the Commission Chair. Good evening.
Welcome, councilors.
So Kathy's going to help me here. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. There we go.
And in fact, I forgot to thank Vicki and her husband for these wonderful 20-year cookies. She's the only person who comes to her own party and brings her own cookies. So, thank you.
Well, Mayor and City Council, I appreciate the opportunity to come and present the Port of Newport's shipping facility project. I know this has been a big project for the Port Commission, and we really view ourselves as a county port district in a lot of ways. Even though our boundaries go up to Otter Rock, Depot Bay used to be a part of the Port of Newport, and a lot of the commerce that happens through Yaquina Bay benefits all of Lincoln County. So I think it's totally appropriate for this project to be shared with you, and hopefully I will be able to manage the technical aspects of this. Really appreciate Kathy's assistance getting me set up here. A little bit about the Port of Newport. Newport's one of only 3 deep draft ports on the Oregon coast. We're at the confluence of US 101 and US 20. There's quite a federal presence in Newport. We're the home of the NOAA Marine Operations Center, not just for the Pacific, but actually for the entire United States. Last summer, they moved the headquarters for Marine Operations Center to Newport from Maryland. There's significant annual U.S. Army Corps of Engineers dredging in Yaquina Bay, where most of the ports on the Oregon coast are zeroed out of the budget. Because of the federal presence in Yaquina Bay, we've been very fortunate over the last 3 years to have significant dredging, and that helps a whole number of users in and out of Yaquina Bay. We're also close to near equal distance between Seattle, Tacoma, and Oakland from a marine transportation perspective, and I'm going to come back to that issue. And I think it's significant because this project just received a U.S. Department of Transportation Tiger grant, a $2 million award that will, in essence, be a down payment on the $6.5 million project cost. And these are very difficult grants to receive. I believe less than 5% of the applications are funded. And so it really shows that the federal government viewed this as a rural national priority. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Another major project showing the federal interest in Lincoln County is the U.S. Department of Energy Wave Facility Project, also known as PMEC, that Oregon State University is taking the lead on. And, of course, everybody knows that the top commercial fishing port on the West Coast is located in Newport. Just a little background on our properties. You'll notice down we have our South Beach properties. This is primarily where Hatfield Marine Science Center and our recreational marina RV park facilities, the aquarium, are in South Beach. And on the north side, I think my cursor just disappeared. On the north side is the commercial bayfront. That's where the commercial fishing boats moor. And the area that I'm going to focus on is on McLean Point. And that's on the eastern side of the city limits of Newport, most distinguished by the LNG tank out on the east side of town. And the port has some significant interest out in that area. We actually own about 15 acres, but there's some private land out there as well that we're currently leasing, about 30 acres. And so that's going to be an interesting point as we move through this project as well. This is what the international terminal looks like. And this is a multi-product facility. This is a really unique facility in Oregon, and to be quite frank, on the Pacific Northwest. This, when the commission and prior commission members looked at remediating the trouble for this site, they really wanted it to be a public facility. And what I mean by public facility is that anybody who has product to move in or out of Newport could have access. What's unique about that is most of the wharf frontage on the Oregon and Washington coast is actually leased or owned by specific businesses, meaning that if you want to move product, you'd have to go talk to that business and work out a deal. So this is a very unique facility. As you can see on the slide, the west berth, we only have 2 berths. The west berth serves vessels up to 640 feet, and the east berth is smaller vessels up to 260. Another thing unique about Newport, relatively short transit to the ocean. It's about a 30 to 45 minute transit to the shipping lanes out of Coos Bay or Astoria. You're looking at anywhere from an hour and 15 minutes to almost 2 hours. This was completed in 2013 at a cost of $27 million, which included $15 million of general obligation bonds. So this had significant interest by the public to see this area cleaned up and actually produce a long-term outcome for the community. I mentioned the public facility. It's not leased to a private tenant, though you can, areas of this can be leased on a short-term 1 or 2 day basis so you can consolidate your product before getting it onto vessel. It's also important to realize that at this time, this area has been supporting the distant commercial fishing fleet, which I referenced earlier as being very significant on the West Coast. And as we proceed with the shipping opportunities, it's going to be critical that the port maintain those opportunities for the commercial fishing fleet. And so that's where things will really get interesting, and I'm looking forward to that challenge as well. So what's the need? So we've got a huge amount of privately held timber within a very short diameter around Newport, and there's been a lot of interest in raw log exports. However, in the last couple of years, with the dollar strengthening and the markets in China drying up, and domestic mills in Oregon actually outbidding foreign markets for this timber, we actually haven't had much of an interest at this point for the raw log market. However, there's been some interest or some opportunity with the closure of Terminal 6 at the Port of Portland. If you recall, there's been some labor disputes and other marketing concerns by Hanjin and Hapag Lloyd. And so that's put a huge burden on Mid-Willamette Valley agricultural producers, primarily fescue, grass, straw, those types of producers. And so I've actually been getting, and Walter has as well, been getting a lot more calls from farmers in Benton, Lynn, Lane, Marion County. And so their question is, hey, when can you start moving this product? And so I think that's really an interesting opportunity here, and one that I think this could be a really great facility for. The barge on the right there is a Sauce Brothers barge. That's a 400-foot by 100-foot large vessel. The Teven Brothers, which is the terminal operator that we have a lease option with that would actually run the facility, they do this exact same thing up in Rainier, Oregon. And Walter and I have both had the opportunity to go up and see their operation, and I think it's a pretty impressive one.
It is. The numerous amount of product, not just lumber products, boats, finished lumber, machines, generators, things like that. And the main benefit of this is there's no way for these products that are getting developed here in Central Oregon to get anywhere close to Tacoma or down there in San Francisco without a long amount of travel time. And due to the closing of Port Dock 6, there is backups on there, and so that was what happened this year with the grass farmers. And this will alleviate some of this, and it's not as if we're going to have one barge a week. It's going to be pretty slow starting once people realize what the option is here. I think there'll be a lot more benefit and more people using it.
Well, I think that's a good point, too. We're not looking to replace the Port of Portland or the ports of Long Beach and Tacoma. The best way to vision what we would be providing is a stop on a marine bus route. So the idea would be that a barge would be coming down the coast, stop in Astoria, stop here in Newport, perhaps stop in Coos Bay, down to Oakland, at which point the product would be moved onto a vessel that would then go across the Pacific. So we're not going to be having the large overhead cranes. A lot of this product can be craned by the smaller ships themselves. And there will be significant, Tevan will be bringing significant equipment, 988s, Laternos, pretty heavy equipment, which is really a barrier to entry into this market. So that's really the need. I think that's, Walter did a good job of talking about the immediate concern that we're seeing. So then the next is, what is the solution? So this picture right here kind of shows the McLean Point. I have an inset map, if you recall, from the earlier map. So we own 9 acres on the northeast corner of McLean Point, and then there's a 30-acre site surrounding it. We're about 1,500 feet from the actual terminal, and the project would entail preparing a stormwater collection system on the site, doing quite a bit of mitigation. Right now, there's no utility, there's no sewer service, and so we've been working very closely with the city, and the city agreed to form an urban renewal district so that once this property is leased, it would have very quick tax increment generated, because right now we lease the 30 acres from the private property owner, and so right now the frozen base is 0. So as soon as we exercise the option and that 9-acre piece goes on the tax rolls, there's going to be an immediate significant increase in tax increment. And then as the private property owner starts developing their interest, and I think that's really the exciting part of this project, is that the private sector is going to be able to start developing some warehousing to support the terminal and some of the other things that we're going to be doing on our 9 acres. The other thing that's nice about this site, it's relatively close to Highway 20. That's a $350 million project that is going to heavily increase traffic.
It's going to cut down the travel time.
There you go. And safety issues. So the proposed condition is really to create a asphalt area, control the stormwater, create some mitigation areas. There will be some wetland fill. So we've received all of our core and DSL permits for filling and mitigating the wetlands. And this is a snapshot of what this project would look like. So in the lower right-hand corner, you've got a whole bunch of product being stacked and prepared, and then over time, that material could stay there for weeks, months, until another shipment comes. And then you've got about a 1,500-foot transit over to the dock, where it would then be loaded onto a barge. And again, off to the left there, all of that is private. That's all private development. And I think that really, with the help of urban renewal, bringing the utilities to the site. That's going to open up a lot of opportunity for private sector investment. So some numbers here on the funding side. We are going to be pursuing a Connect Oregon grant. There's 3 Connect Oregon applications out of Lincoln County, the ports. I believe the city of Newport is doing one, and the port of Toledo. This is a pretty significant ask. $4 million is a very large chunk. However, we cannot access the Tiger grant funds until we have a project. And we cannot tap into the Tiger money until we have the match in hand.
Kevin, can I ask?
Yeah, absolutely. At any point.
Tiger.
Tiger, it's one of these acronyms, and it's like Transportation Enhancement. They really worked to make it, but basically it's a U.S. Department of Transportation, right. Very similar to the Connect Oregon project or program, but at a federal level.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, do you have rail to that site as well?
No, rail ends up at in Toledo.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, exactly.
No way to bring rail down there.
Walter, you've been in the community much longer than I have.
It would be pretty much, it would be impossible at this time in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so we're really going to be making this is about the 6th or 7th time that I've made this presentation. I plan on making it 6 or 7 more before the Connect Oregon process picks up steam. And we're going to be applying for other grants as well. I've listed those. As far as where the money's going to be going, you can see that there's a lot of site prep. We've got about 40,000 cubic yards of clean but unbuildable material on that site that will need to find a final resting place. There's a lot of sub-base and paving and utility improvements. In essence, what we will be building is a highly functional parking lot that with the highest level of stormwater collection permitting that the state allows. We're going to be going for a 1200Z. Which is way beyond what the state of Oregon requires, but we think long-term, that's going to catch up to Washington and California standards, and so we're not going to be taking any chance on that. Any questions on the funding or the budget? So this is a phased approach. I mentioned the $27 million remediation that finished in 2013. We've dredged the berth down to 35 feet. Which is required for the log exports, and we've done some mitigation related to that. I've went ahead and co-opted the US 20 project because it's so significant, and one of the reasons why we're getting a lot of attention because of that increased speed and increased safety. And then there's our $6.5 million shipping facility. And then there's going to be subsequent phases, which would be private sector. That's that 30-acre additional warehousing. There's a real glut of available warehousing in Lincoln County for commercial fishermen, NOAA, you name it. There's just not a lot of warehousing in Lincoln County.
So a shortage, not a glut.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for the correction. And any other comments on that, Walter?
No, I just think that, it is a Port of Newport project, but it is about bringing job and economic viability to the area. We're going to be creating jobs for between 25 to 35 people with our terminal facility, and those are jobs for people.
Segue.
I'm being conservative. So, but they're jobs for people that have been living in the community and being part of the Port District for many years. We've done a good job of bringing NOAA and other entities in here, but this one's for the community. It's going to benefit the community, and also we have some small timberland owners that are around in the area that this would benefit them greatly. I was just talking to one. If he was able to have this facility right now, he would be saving $150 per load a day, and he sends out 4 loads a day. That's almost $500 that would go back in his pocket, and he's been paying property taxes in Lincoln County for 50 years, and that money stays here. He buys his things here, and so I think that this is not just a benefit for Newport, it's a benefit for the surrounding community and county.
And here's kind of a breakdown on the job creation. The upper one is actually the construction jobs, short-term jobs, and the lower is the more permanent jobs. So you're looking at 48 direct jobs related to this project with an annual output of over $5 million a year. That does not include any of the additional job creation off that private property investment. So this project's been vetted. It's on a whole number of lists, including some that have Lincoln City representation. This is was recently named a regionally significant industrial area, which included a number of sites in Lincoln County. We're also on the Oregon Cascades West Economic Development District. This is a project that is identified in the SEDS. And we just received our building permit from the city on December 31. So that was a pretty big milestone for us as well. Private sector commitment. Teven Brothers has already put in $300,000 towards the engineering and design of the facility. So originally, this is about the third iteration of this project, going back how many years?
2.5 now.
2.5. So each one, it's gotten a little bit smaller, but as part of the lease option, we were able to obtain all of their engineering, and that's going to save us quite a bit. And then the Halls have agreed to be putting in some significant investment on their private property. We've received over 40 letters of support from a whole number of businesses and trade associations. All of those letters are on our website, and I would encourage you to go to the portofnewport.com. Most of the information that you're seeing in this presentation is available on our website, including all the permits. So the readiness to proceed. So we're working on a lot of the preliminary engineering. That's all been finished. And so really we're going to be hitting the ground running in the fourth quarter of, later on this year, fourth quarter of 2016. Once, cross our fingers, we're fortunate to get to Connect Oregon. Once we have that in hand, we're really going to be spending 2017 doing the vast majority of the work. And it'll be finishing up in the third quarter, but we should be able, assuming that this timeline meets fruition, we would be able to ship product in the fourth quarter of 2017, first quarter of 18. So that's the timeline. Of course, we're not guaranteed the Connect Oregon money. And so we've got a whole number of applications, and so we're doing multiple applications in case that's not successful. But first look, I think we've been getting some pretty good feedback. So I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions or comments or concerns, Walter and I would love to hear them. I'll probably take the concerns, and he can take the easy ones.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Just want to thank you both for coming north. As you say, the county does reach past Depot Bay.
Absolutely.
And certainly, without kidding aside, the port is a very influential component in the county. And at times, it's hard for us to recognize that, we also benefit. So I appreciate when you do come north and share with us your plans, because it starts us thinking of how we might better utilize some of our assets.
Well, it's been great coming here to share the project. I just want to give a shout out to Kurt. When I was starting out in public management at the city of Garibaldi, we started an urban renewal district, and Kurt was the first guy there to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, if you have any questions, I'm here to help," and he has over the last 10 plus years. So you've got a great staff here.
So you'll be done in 2018. You can come take care of our bay and get that up to speed.
Regional Airport District.
Let's pay. That's all we want.
One thing at a time, right?
I do have a quick question, and it's neither here nor there, but the road leading into this, is that capable of handling significant traffic in and out of there?
Yeah, you want?
Yeah, Moore Road was designed actually as to go into there, and the city will be redesigning the left-hand turn at the bottom
Right.
of Moore, and so that will be all done this summer.
Okay.
So, putting in
I'm
new sewer
excited.
lines
I
and new
just-
trains, so, yeah.
And I'm jealous as can be, and I'm glad we're there to pick up some of the pieces from Portland's mistakes. Well done. Anyone else? Great, thank you. Excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
Mayor,
Appreciate it.
Councilors, thank you.
Thank you both.
All right. Up here, we are at consent agenda, no items. Well, it says no items, then I go construction contract award. Do we need lights back up, or no? Who's doing the construction contract award?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, oh, there she comes, okay. I just didn't see anyone moving out there. Yeah, and my eyes are bad.
So asking tonight for council to award a construction contract. This is for a reimbursement district that was established for Northeast 19th Street for a sewer project, established on November 23rd. We were wanted to get this done as quickly as possible, so we went out for 3 quotes. We only received 1 bid, but we did verify that each of the bidders were interested in the project. So, for whatever reason, we only received 1 bid, but the bid was a good one. It was higher than my estimate, but the bid amount was for $59,995. The estimate at the time we created the reimbursement district was $50,700. So we're asking that we go ahead and construct the project, award the bid and contingency for the project, and then come back to you as the reimbursement district ordinance requires. Then we'll have another public hearing and establish the cost based on the actual construction cost.
Questions, comments? I'm excited to have K&E in charge of this. Yeah.
A nice familiar name, huh?
Well, we've spoken briefly about some of our contracts have been awarded recently, and I've been concerned about some of the work done by some of the contractors. And this was something I brought up, that should we be in a discussion about bids, what kind of work was going to be done? And so I'm pleased. So do we need a motion to go, and you're good to go? That's okay. That was just rather brief. I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, I think this is a roll call vote as well.
Yeah, okay. So then I need a motion.
Now, is this for the resolution, or is this just the recommendation?
Oh,
This is the construction contract.
right.
Yeah, there's a separate resolution, I believe, for transferring.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we award the construction contract to K&E Excavating in the amount of $59,995 with a construction contingency of $5,999.50, which is 10% of the construction bid amount.
I second it.
So that is the total 68,74450, right? Just want to make sure we got the right amounts in there. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Sprague.
Yes.
Walke.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
And Ryan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much. And then Resolution 2016-02, a resolution authorizing and directing budget transfers for the City of Lincoln City, Oregon in the 2015-16 fiscal year budget.
Mayor, I'd move to approve Resolution 2016-02.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I noticed that it was dated last meeting. It was dated the 11th of January. I think we need to change the date on that.
Oh, passed and approved, right, on the 11th day of January, so we need to change that to today? Did you hear that, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well then barring that change, any further discussion? Get a roll call, please.
I believe.
Walke?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And Sprague?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now is the time for comments from citizens present on agenda, non-agenda items. Excuse me while I increase my, there we go. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearing or public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the city recorder will use the light system. Speakers may not yield their times to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of this agenda item, a councilor may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by a citizen. The mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comment in accordance with the number of persons present and signed up to speak. So we start at the top of the list. Laura Joki. Oh, and then just in case you miss it, just if you'll give us your name and then stay close to the mic, you do not have to give your address.
Well, I'm not just up here to break things, I promise. So I am here, my name is Laura Joki. I am a resident business owner, an organizational leadership coach, and also the head organizer of the Lincoln City Community Action Committee. It's a recently founded group here in Lincoln City of concerned citizens banding together to support our community in finding win-win-win balance to help the people and businesses in this community thrive. How we're doing that is that we connect with the community. There is some level of disconnect with how much a lot of us have to work. And so we connect online through a Facebook group currently totaling 137 people, and we've only been at this since about November. We had our first meeting on the 10th, I believe. I could be wrong on that. It was a Sunday at the Ridge Apartments, and we meet every first Sunday at the Ridge. Our goal is to educate by providing easy-to-digest information and education on citizen participation in local politics, and to create pathways to collaboration and solutions. And I bring this to the council tonight because I've been reviewing our city's comprehensive plan. And I came upon the part about a citizens involvement program. And I do know that the citizens involvement program is an ongoing process as stated in our comprehensive plan. And that my experience at large in the community is our citizens are experiencing a disconnect. So I'm asking the city council, first I wanted to review a couple of these real quick, and then from a private citizen standpoint, I had no clue that this even existed. So Lincoln City recognizes that the citizen involvement is necessary in making wise and legitimate land use decisions, and that it says here that the Lincoln City Citizens Involvement Program is an ongoing process. The effectiveness of government is only measured by the extent that the citizens participate. Only through citizens' participation can a government determine attitudes, needs, and desires of the public. Without adequate citizen participation, government decisions are made in a void. So your citizen involvement policies, as stated, and the goal here is to develop a citizen involvement program which ensures continued participation of the citizens in the land use process or planning process. And in that, the policies are as follows: that Lincoln City shall develop a multimedia program on the planning process and procedure, which you guys have, you broadcast, and that's fairly well known. Number two, that you shall ensure that a reasonable effort is made to encourage opportunity for citizens to attend public meetings. Citizens at large, there could be more outreach there. Lincoln City shall work with the school district, which I'm not even going to touch there because I don't have any information on number three. Lincoln City shall strive to establish a better liaison with other community groups and senior citizens, which I do see outreach, absolutely. The 5 and 6 are my main concerns, is that Lincoln City shall maintain a committee for citizen involvement, which is charged with the responsibility for assisting the City Council with development of a citizen involvement program that promotes and enhances citizen involvement in land use planning, implementation of the CIP, and a yearly objective evaluation process. And then number 6, the Committee for Citizen Involvement and its format, responsibility, and basic element for the citizen involvement program are established by the resolution of the council. The number 7 is that Lincoln City shall encourage a variety of citizen programs such as neighborhood associations and other committees, which you do. And so what I'm coming to you as is that as a person who is out there talking to the minimum wage workers, talking to the people who have 3 jobs, talking to the people who aren't normally accessible to the city council because maybe they're in a different class, maybe they're in a different lifestyle, maybe they're just not accessible to people, one person or the other. And there's a disconnect. And so I am here to ask the city council in whatever discovery process or whatever we need to do next I Googled because I'm of that age, a committee for citizen involvement, and Lincoln City, the only mention of it anywhere on the town website, anything is in this comprehensive plan. It doesn't exist, as far as I can tell, as a citizen at large. And this is a project that's supposed to involve citizens. So I'm petitioning, or whatever I need to do. I'm not a politician. I'm a business owner. To ask the city council to look at this deeper, to really take some serious consideration into forming that committee, or if it is formed, maybe starting to do it a little bit differently. Because I'm here because the citizens don't feel heard. That's what I'm hearing. And there are citizens who know how to feel heard. They are the ones who show up. And I'm the one who's out there cheerleading to get the rest of them participating, because citizen involvement in our local government, it's our price of admission for being a U.S. citizen. You can't just sit on the couch and armchair quarterback and complain about what your city's doing without involvement. And so part of my message is that the citizens are just as accountable as all of you in maintaining a good city and a vision for our future. So I'm really just asking for your partnership and any kind of action towards implementing this goal better, because I think we can do it better, and the LCCAC is here to partner with you and help. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. Nikki Hayes. And that was the nicest golf clap I've heard in a while. That was great.
Hi, my name is Nikki Hayes, and I live in Lincoln City. I'd like to thank you all for your service, and then jump in on it. I have been writing letters for the last few months about the affordable housing and living wage issue. There's only a couple of people who respond. Chester responds, and so does Kip Ward. Everybody else is quiet. So I would like to be heard, and that is that we are in a crisis. This is a now crisis. Not tomorrow crisis, not 2 months from now, not next year, not 2 years. This is a crisis. People need a place to live, and we don't have it. But we have property. One of the smartest things the City Council did was to purchase property. So we have property that has roads, power, water, everything to it, but we're talking about, well, we're not talking about it. We put it out for request for qualifications for somebody to make us an offer and tell us what we want to do with it. I think we need to tell them what we want to do with it. I went to Mr. Mayor's, what was it called, the City?
Mayor's Forum.
Mayor's, and it was excellent. Thank you very much for hosting that. And Representative Gumborg was there, and he said, when I brought this up, that there's money with the state that can do construction for housing, low-income housing, for employee housing. Now, my thought on this property, because housing is not one size fits all. We have various needs. We have the shelters needed. We have employee houses. We need Section 8. There's various needs, but we have the ability to solve one of them. And that, I would say, is employee housing. That parcel up there would make excellent employee housing. It's already up there. We can get the funds from the state, and we have builders and build homes for people. On that, I brought some. Aspen has employee housing, and what that is are townhomes, and they're less than market, and they have rules and laws and so forth, et cetera, and people buy them under market, and they have to sell them under market. So they have all the CC&Rs and everything that keep it into employee housing. So you can't buy this low-cost housing and then turn around and sell it and make a profit, which is kind of fearful for me from what Mr. Townsend has said. He wants to build, perhaps he's just giving ideas. So build some townhomes and then put some less expensive townhomes in there. But how do we get this to go on for perpetuity? We need the homes to continue for our employees. And the city has employees that have nowhere to live. All of the rentals are gone, So we need to do this, and not next week. I know I've been told government doesn't move this fast, but it's been on your plates for a really long time. So we really need to put the boots to the ground and get it done. And I know you can. I know you can do it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate it. And I believe that's a J. Joanna Morris?
Nikki, I believe you left
Left something behind there.
Yeah.
Oh, Jonna, I'm sorry. It's just not working for me tonight. And I know you. I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Donna Morris. I'm a Lincoln City resident. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me address you. I am a co-founder with Joe Kalk of the Beachtown Charities Thrift Store. We're a thrift store that was formed to support local charities. We just today received our lease papers that we're having reviewed tomorrow to get our storefront. It will be down in the Nelscott area. It's 3110 Southeast Highway 101. It used to be the Passover thrift store. We expect to take possession on February 1, and we'll spend the next 2 to 4 weeks getting it ready to go in there. We're already accepting donations. Susan has donated to us, and we have a small storage unit. We're getting the loan of a trailer to put things in. So, like I say, we're hoping to get donations from the community, and the community has expressed to us how they want a place to donate their goods to that doesn't go to that big box store in town that they don't support. We're accepting quality donations. We'd love to have some financial support. We're starting to look for volunteers. This is an all-volunteer endeavor. And so we're up, ready to get going, looking for volunteers to get us going and to work in the store. We have our own website already, so you can go to the Beachtown Charities Thrift Store website and follow our progress.
Is it beachtowncharities.com?
It's Beachtown Charities Thrift Store.com. Yes,
okay.
That's a mouthful. And there's a link on there. We can take donations, and I'm sure you all know Elizabeth Black. She came up with this fantastic idea. We're going to, if people will donate a certain amount a month per year, we'll give them a place on the floor to decorate. They will decorate. They'll put on whatever they want there, as long as it's clean and whatever. And then we'll cover that over, and that will be our floor decoration there. It's just going to be a concrete floor, and that will be our floor. We have a Facebook page also. You can follow us there, follow our progress, volunteer, donate, and we just thank. We've had support, verbally support from all of you and from the community, and we thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Donna. I have Ben on here, but I think Ben already spoke about the disc golf. Paul? No? There he is.
Thank you. My name is Paul Caton. I live in Otis, and I've been a long-term volunteer with the Salmon Drift Creek Watershed Council. And as you probably know, our offices are down on the ground floor right below us here. And we're involved in a variety of stream restoration projects, fish habitat improvement, and other types of restoration projects. And tonight, I'm here to invite the council, city staff, anybody from the public here, or anybody listening in on TV land to come participate in a new project that the council is conducting to investigate the health of coastal prairies or grasslands. But before I really get into the detail of that, let me tell you a little bit, give you a little background in the restoration projects we did north of town here on Pixie Land and Tamara Keys. This was actually quite a bit of planning went into those projects. Started back in 2006 where we hired 5 graduate students to come out and work for us for a summer, and was involved with what's known as a student charrette process. A charrette is basically an interactive process for collecting information, resolving conflicts with stakeholders, and coming up with a design for a project. I think the city staff are probably pretty familiar with that process. Anyway, in 2006, when we conducted that student charrette process, we came up with this very comprehensive report on how to conduct those restoration projects in the Salmon River Estuary. At this time, the Forest Service is interested in learning more about the current state-of-the-art of the coastal prairies up and down the coast of Oregon here. This not only includes those prairies and open grasslands up in Cascade Head, but also all the way up to Mount Hebo and down to Bray Point down south of Yarharts, and there's also an area down in California of interest for the health of the grasslands. And one of the reasons that they're interested in learning about this is it affects these are potential habitat for the silver spot butterfly. As you're aware that the silver spot butterfly only exists in 5 habitats now, and they're quite threatened species, and the Forest Service is looking for an opportunity to learn just how well grasslands are functioning and whether there's some restoration projects that can be conducted. In order to do this, we've hired 4 very talented young sophomore high school students to help us conduct the project this time. Instead of graduate students from college, we're using local high school students. It's a really interesting project. They're helping us collect information. They started working for us last summer, doing some research, working with Forest Service employees, conducting some research. And last Saturday, over at Sitka Center for Art and Ecology, we had what was really our first public meeting. The poster I gave you shows what we had one a few weeks before, but that was just a shakedown. And we had about 20 people who came and helped discuss a variety of topics related to grasslands. And again, the students are trying to collate all this information. So I'm here tonight to just make the city aware, the city council and city staff and anybody else in the public to be interested. Please come on out to our next public meeting, which will be at the Otis Fire Hall, Saturday, February 6th from 1 to 4. By coming, we get the public to come in, talk to the students, provide them with information. Everybody has a little bit of different perspective on the nature of the local meadows or some historical tidbits that might be of interest. Just come, listen, learn, and participate as you feel fit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Please.
Is the kiosk program going forward? There was some discussion about developing a kiosk just off of Highway 101.
Yeah, that's a separate project. That's the one that's going in on Fraser Road, right near where that new culvert was put in on Highway 101. The Forest Service delayed that project by a year And I believe they'll probably be starting on the actual further construction. They started construction and stopped this summer. The Watershed Council is working on a grant from the Forest Service to put in the informational kiosk for that. So we've been holding public meetings for that as well. And those notices will go out to people.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And I apologize, I skipped right over John Force. John still here? No? Okay. Joe Russo? Gone too? And Walter, that was the young man. And then Walter is gone. Okay, so anyone who did not sign up would like to come up and say something tonight? No? Hearing nothing. Okay, thank you. Public hearings, public comment, none. Resolution referred to, we did that already. Special order of business, appointment to library board. Joe Francis Call. Kathy?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I was one of the individuals who interviewed Ms. Kalk along with Councilor Walkie, and I'm going to recommend that we accept her application as a member of the library board. We have not been meeting for the past 6 months, 9 months. I'm not sure how long it's been. About 8 months. Ms. Kalk is an experienced librarian, has worked at Washington State Library, Cornell University Library, and the Library of Congress. So I believe that we're privileged and honored to have such a volunteer.
All right.
And I heartily recommend we accept her as a library board member.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Then do I have to do a separate appointment, or that was the motion to accept the application?
Motion to accept.
Okay, so then do we need a separate for appointment? I'm a little lost on that process. Is that it for that? Is she officially appointed?
I move that we appoint Ms. Kalk to the library board.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Welcome to the library board. Thank you so much for your service. Appointment to library board, Elizabeth Chandler.
I was able to interview Mrs. Chandler, and I heartily recommend that we appoint her to the library board. She also has many years of experience in libraries, and I think we're privileged to have both of them on board.
Okay, so we have a motion. Looking for a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Welcome aboard. All right, we already heard about the disc golf and Project Advisory Committee, Parks Master Plan.
Good evening. I'm Deborah Nicholson. I'm a senior planner. And I have been doing the park planning functions for the city for the last couple of years. We would like to update our 2001 master plan for parks and recreation. I have come and talked to you about that before. We did get a grant for $40,000 from Oregon Parks and Rec Department, and it needs to be used by the end of October. So fortunately, we did put out an RFP, and we got 4 proposals. We do have, we have made our choice. It's Greenworks. We have not yet finalized the scope of work or the fees, but I will be bringing that to you shortly. We want to get started right away because we are on a short timeline, and I want to make sure that when we're ready to start, we do have a project advisory committee ready to go. I am asking you this evening to direct staff to use the same process we have recently with other short-term projects, studies that we've done, and that is to invite our city organizations to send us representatives. In the past, for the walking and biking plan, for our transportation system plan, and for our Nell Scott Gap plan, we've sent out letters and we've accepted these people without doing background checks because of the short-term nature of the position and also because they are being recommended by an organization. So if that's all right with you, I will use the same process. I envision, and I put this in your memorandum, that we would have as the basis of this committee the 7-member park board. We have 3 vacancies, which I hope we fill soon. And also I have a list of other organizations, and if you have any, just in the audience tonight, I've thought of 3 additions that I would like to make, and maybe you have some too. But those organizations that I thought would be important to have represented include Lincoln County Parks and Rec, North County residents outside the urban growth boundary, Hispanic population, Confederated Tribes of the Silex, the Lincoln County School District, the Lincoln City students, Lincoln City business groups, and because we do want to make sure that tourism, recreation for tourism is an important part of this plan. The health services community, walking and biking advocates, including somebody from the Sustainability Committee. Also, we may want to include Devil's Lake Water Improvement District representative and also the Senior Center and possibly our neighborhood groups. There's always a danger of making these committees too large, but it just seems that this is something that affects so many people, and we have so many opportunities that I'd like to make sure that we allow and encourage representation.
Yeah, would it be appropriate to have someone from the VCB on that? As we are pursuing tourists.
Actually, we have, as our project management team, we have Lila Bradley from Public Works because she is in charge of our parks maintenance. We have Ed Drystad from VCB. We also have Gail Kimberling from the Rec Center, obviously, and myself and Richard Townsend. I'm trying to think if I've missed anybody, but I think that's right.
Mr. Mayor, I add one thing to this. If you recall, when we put this proposal out, we also included an alternative for water, some sort of water feature proposal. Only one of the companies that bid on this had an inclusion in that, and their inclusion was simply an architect to look at the redesign of the community center. And so because of the lack of interest at that point and a little bit of still not quite certain where you want to go with this project, we are not recommending at this time that you include anything on the water features. And we'll come back at a later date and discuss that a little bit more with you in detail.
Okay. Well, then you're looking for just a motion from us for approval to proceed?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we direct staff to invite targeted community groups to send us representatives to serve on the Project Advisory Committee.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? I've got one, just you kind of went quickly over the no background checks. And
yes.
I'm just wondering, and I guess I'm going to turn to Mr. Apicello here, do we leave ourselves open for any trouble with that?
Obviously, there's always risk if you skip that step. I think the recommendation is that other groups are going to be recommending these people to you.
Okay.
You know me, I'd always make them do a background check, but that's just...
So I guess I'm going to be putting a lot of trust that this is going to go smoothly.
Okay.
So that's my discussion. Yeah, that's something that concerns me, that we don't want to just gloss over that because it is important.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, then I guess just a voice. Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for all your work on this, Deborah.
Thanks.
All right, I think we're nearing the end here, folks. We are at City Manager, City Attorney reports.
I just have one item, Mr. Mayor. 2 work meetings that we have coming up next week. The first one is on Monday, February 1st at 3 o'clock, which will be a discussion on systems development charges. The second is a further discussion with the Planning Commission, a joint work meeting on Tuesday, February 2nd at 6 p.m.
Okay, and as I've mentioned, I will not be in town for either of those, but we talked and I'll send my comments along with that, so. And Kip will be gone also, right?
No, he will be back
He'll
on
be back,
Saturday.
okay.
Mr. Chandler, the February 1st meeting is what time?
3 o'clock.
Thank you.
Mr. Appicello.
The only thing I have is, number one, I think I told you before, we had a LUBA appeal from the Vacation Rental License Appeals Board. I responded to the appeal with a motion to dismiss and response. They've responded to the motion to dismiss, part of that, and typically LUBA will set an oral argument on both the motion and the case together. They have not done so. I'll write you a memo and explain what the arguments are in the case, so you're up to speed. The second matter is I filed a response in Circuit Court to, it's essentially miscaptioned as a complaint, but it's really a petition to the Circuit Court appealing a decision of the city elections officer. So I filed that response today. And I'll write a memo and explain the substance of the case.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I did have one other item. I asked Richard Townsend to come and talk a little bit about marijuana.
All right. I'm glad we have cookies.
Yeah.
Dude. You know, I just knew this was going to happen.
The state law authorizing medical marijuana facilities has provisions that require them to be 1,000 feet away from schools and 1,000 feet away from each other. The initiative that created the recreational marijuana situation or ability to have them keeps the 1,000-foot from school, but says nothing about spacing between them from other marijuana stores. We do have the authority to put in reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. We've been getting what I would consider a fairly large number of inquiries about what rules we have in place. So if we want to consider putting the time, place, and manner restrictions, such as the 1,000-foot restriction, I think it's important to do that sooner rather than later so that people know what the playing field is going to be. So what I'm asking you really is, I'm asking you to do anything other than tell me whether you want to consider the possibility of doing those kinds of regulations.
Yes.
So, I'm seeing a general consensus. Okay. Thank you.
Just going to let it lie. Thank you. We've had enough fun for one night.
We're going to have a joint meeting on
You just knew it was coming. Okay. It's always the quiet guys. All right. Additional comments from citizens present on non-agenda items. Try to follow that act. Okay. Seeing none, thank you. Announcements or comments by City Council?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I recently attended a Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments meeting, and the issue of dues came up. Our dues are once again due. And let me read a description of what these dues are used for, if I may. Member dues are used to match federal and state dollars to fund your community programs, projects, and services. For example, your dues match, as required by state law, our Medicaid transfer dollars and allow us to determine eligibility and provide support to Medicaid clients. Your dues are also used to match, as required by federal law, our funding for our Economic Development District, which allows us to access federal money for economic development and develop a 5-year comprehensive economic development strategy for our region. Therefore, while member dues are a very small portion of the COG budget, about 1%, they are very important. Dues are assessed for 3 areas. 1, general dues, community development, and transportation. Pardon me. Number 1, general dues. Number 2, community development. And number 3, transportation. General dues are distributed based by program size and full-time employees. Therefore, the majority of these dues are applied toward match for the Senior and Disability Services Program. Community development dues are assessed for the services that are provided by the COG's Community and Economic Development Program, and the transportation dues provide the COG's Community and Economic Development staff the increased capacity to work on transportation programs. At each January board meeting, a dues rate is set for the next fiscal year. Your dues are adjusted annually based upon the current population estimate for each jurisdiction and the Portland Consumer Price Index. And our dues last year were $8,661.92. Pardon me, those are the dues for this year. And the change from last year was $462. In addition to the subject of dues, this is a list of items from the Economic Development Director for the Council of Governments. And this is a sampling of some of the projects that the Council of Governments is involved in. The Oregon Cascade West Council of Governments is assisting Lincoln County with an Environmental Protection Agency brownfield assessment grant. A public outreach meeting was held in Newport in early December, and the grant was officially submitted to the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, on December 17th. The COG also continues to assist the Port of Newport with an Economic Development Agreement project funding proposal to increase export freight opportunities. The Port recently received a $2 million U.S. Department of Transportation Tiger grant. The Council of Government plans to work with the American Association of Retired Persons, ARP, with a regional, quote, age-friendly communities, unquote, initiative. The Council of Governments is using an Oregon State University intern to help staff frame a discussion related to enhancing commercial aviation services in the region. The report is in final draft stages. The Council of Governments is using a University of Oregon intern to develop a rural banking study. The report is in final draft stages. I believe banks have been closed in Waldport and Yachats both. The Council of Governments is working with Lincoln and Benton County and the cities of Waldport and Philomath on a Highway 34 scenic byway proposal. And that, I believe, is it. But as you see, they're very active, and we can take as much advantage of this Council of Governments as we desire. And I am the liaison, so if you have any requests, interests, I'm available.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I've been giving this quite a bit of thought lately, and at the last meeting we heard a lot of frustration over, we're talking about VRDs, over what people can or cannot do. And it occurred to me that while we are working diligently and we are working forward, and I think we're making some progress, that it might be wise to let them get on with their business this year. And so I will make a motion that we do not do enforcement of the accessory use or the time limits for the balance of the year of 2016, and that is a formal motion.
Well, I would second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have just a question. In December of 2014, we instructed the city manager at that time to begin enforcement. None took place. And the current law says we're supposed to enforce. Why are we suddenly deciding not to enforce? That's my question.
At this moment, there is no clear-cut idea on exactly how many days you can rent, whether we're going to change it, are we going to get rid of the accessory use. There's a lot of questions in the air, and rather than putting everybody in absolute limbo, I'm just saying while we're working on it, let's just not enforce it through this year. Let's let people get on with their lives. That would save a lot of angst in this city. I believe. That's my opinion, and that's why I made the motion.
Right. And I would agree with that. It's really been the anxiety level, and wherever you fall on this, we are discussing it again, and we are coming towards what I think is going to be a conclusion, closer than I think we've ever been. And that's I would heartily recommend that we accept this motion. It just makes sense to ease the frustration and the anxiety level, and then we can come up with a nice, clear decision, hopefully without everyone yelling at us in the interim about where they're going to be and what they can and can't do with their property that they've been allowed to do.
Mr. Mayor?
Sir.
I think that just turns on a green light and says we can just rent however we want. That's what concerns me.
And I understand. I think that what Mr. Ryan's motion was just through this year until we come to that decision. Again, I think it's a wise decision.
I would even modify it to say until we make a decision or till the end of the year, but I think it would be clearer if we said till the end of the year.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor?
Sir.
Just a point of order. Is, under Robert's Rules of Order, can the chairman make a motion or second a motion?
I think I can second.
I believe you can second.
You can second?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
I would like to speak to this if you would like to hear it.
Sure.
Ever since Measure 56, you can only do land use by ordinance, which means no resolution or motion or proclamation can change the law when it's a land use regulation. And I've said this several times during our discussions that the law is what it is. If you wish to change the law, you have to pass an ordinance. So I realize that certainty is important to VRD owners in terms of what they can do and cannot do in the coming year. In the past, the council had adopted by ordinance a settlement, a compromise, basically, of 180 days. That was not a determination that you were entitled to rent 180 days. It was simply an offer, which was not imposed on anyone. It was a settlement proposal. If you wanted it, you can take it. And as I've indicated several times, there are only about a dozen VRDs, or actually the last time I looked, there were about a dozen that were over 180 days. I would think if you want to go the direction of the motion, you should give direction to staff to come back with the appropriate ordinance to implement that idea. Perhaps an alternative might be and perhaps a faster alternative might be to reinstitute the settlement offer as that was adopted by council, supported by findings, and upheld by the Land Use Board of Appeals. So it might be a very short process since you've already gone through that. That kind of effort might achieve some certainty while you're talking about these other alternatives.
Mr. Mayor?
Well, if I can just, please.
If I could, I'd just like to ask a question on that. Is not enforcing an ordinance changing the ordinance? Is not enforcing the ordinance changing the ordinance?
I don't think it is.
It's still there.
The ordinance is still there.
That's a question. I don't know the answer to that. That's a question.
It's in my mind just asking not to do it.
What would be the difference between not enforcing and declaring a moratorium?
I would look at the issue of saying we're not going to enforce to be basically declaring a moratorium on enforcement. I see that as the ordinance. Public officers are required, it's a crime, not to enforce a law that you are entrusted to enforce. So I would want to adopt a law that excuses non-enforcement of an existing law. So if you want to suspend operation of a law, I think you need to do it by ordinance under Measure 56. If you want to direct staff not to enforce a law, I think since staff is required by law to enforce that, I would think that following the correct procedure would be to either enact a moratorium on enforcement or adopt some other alternative. That's my advice.
Well, then I would change my motion to enact a moratorium on enforcement of the BRD ordinance until December 31st, 2016.
Again, I would second that. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I guess we'll do a roll call on that one.
Yeah, I've got a comment, question. This is the first I've heard of this. As far as I'm concerned, it hasn't been vetted by anybody on staff. I haven't seen any written proposal. I'd like to see a written proposal, and I'm not ready to vote yes on this.
Okay. So,
And, Mr. Mayor?
please.
I guess I would share that same concern with my own thoughts being, again, I spoke last council meeting about the uncertainty, or I guess it was at the work session, understand the uncertainty that this creates, but, we've had a vote of the people in May of last year. City manager's been out with a lot of town hall meetings, community meetings on this subject of VRDs, and I repeatedly have heard, just enforce. And back to the May election, overturned what voters, citizens who elected you, overturned a proposal, ordinances. And when you make those came from initiatives put up by other people, and when you do that, there are bound to be uncertainties and consequences that nobody knew. So I'm not very sympathetic right now, to try to rush or appease somebody when I agree with the mayor that, good work is being done, a lot of discussion. I think you're moving ahead to a resolution, even though there was one, a year plus ago. So, laws are slow. And again, we have another group of people putting more initiatives up who are bound and determined to overturn anything this council puts forth. So honestly, I'm not very sympathetic. And quite frankly, I'm not interested in working real hard on this, knowing that there's going to be an election sometime, on this initiative until these people get what they want. I'm not motivated to try to find some common ground. And the only thing, Mayor, that we have right now to get people to the table is a little, in the form of leverage, is uncertainty. And we've got 90 days or so. Let's move ahead and, bang it out. And, you've already spent 2015, So you won't be seeing my vote for not enforcing.
Further discussion?
I'm not comfortable with the time frame. It just leaves the whole year wide open. I'm not comfortable with that. I think that we will have something resolved before that time is over, and I can't support that.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, then a roll call, please.
Sprague,
No.
Walke,
No.
Williams,
Yes.
Anderson,
No.
Norikis,
No.
and Ryan.
Yes.
Motion fails.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Ryan. Anyone else? Good, because I got a list. Okay. I was at the OCZMA meeting and Oregon Coastal Zone Management Association?
Yeah.
Hey, made it. Just recently, and some really interesting things were coming out of that meeting that will affect a lot of us. And we got a packet with some legislation that's coming our way. Two things that I thought were really important to talk about. We have a special session in February, which goes through about the first week of March. So this is a real short period, and it's supposed to be just a kind of a house cleaning time, but more and more they're shoving through some major legislation in this. So I wanted to give a heads up to some people. LC 284, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it touches on landlord-tenant relations, but the final sentence in this says, permits local governments to waive state or local building and zoning codes during state of emergency or upon finding rental vacancy of 4% or less. I trotted this past Mr. Townsend, and I just wanted to find out if there's a way, and I don't need an answer tonight, how we would determine vacancy rates in our city if we would ever reach that threshold. And if this does pass, then it gives us a lot more leverage in our desire to create some more affordable housing. So that was that. And then, was that the only one I want to talk about? Yeah, that would do it for now. I've got enough to talk about. Budget hearings, the Budget Committee. We're not forgotten everyone. We're just trying to get the last two people together for interviews. I have one more person to interview, and then we're ready to make our recommendations. TAF Wrestling has their home meet, 5 p.m. Thursday the 28th. Please come out and cheer on our TAF Tigers. This is their one and only event. Coach Luke Hall is back and expecting good things out of our grapplers. We have the Jambalaya Cook-Off Saturday the 30th from 11 to 2. I have a tentative date for Senator Merkley coming to Taft High School, 5 p.m., and of course I didn't write down the date. It's a Saturday, Saturday the 6th. So we can talk about some things with our senator. I did want to mention the Mayor's Forum was brought up. Had a really great turnout. I thank Councilor Anderson and Councilor Ward for showing up, and Councilor Norikis, who had to leave because we had a quorum. But it was well attended, a lot of thoughtful discussion about what we need to do to start really tackling the homeless issue in our town. So I thank everyone for turning out and offering their great ideas. And then finally, I just want to mention Ron, and I believe Ed is going with you to the LOC offices on Friday to League of Oregon Cities to talk about the upcoming Oregon Mayors Association get-together we're going to have here in the summer. And that's going to be a great event for the city, well-attended, and lots of people spending lots of money in our town. So with that, if there's nothing else, say God bless you all. God bless Lincoln City. We are adjourned. Oh, and we don't need a second, by the way. I looked it up. If it's our custom, we can have it. That's the thing. I brought up before because nobody uses the second anymore.
Oh, really?
We are like one of the last bodies that uses the second. Yeah. When I was in Salem, you don't. You just go. I have a motion to any opposition, and then that opposition will serve as a second. But I don't have. I oppose it. Well, then we go through the discussion process. But you don't need it. It's just gone. The second is gone. And everything I've read about same thing. Just don't do it. They really sped things up.
Yeah.
And then because they said it's kind of sad. Someone makes a motion, and no one's second, and you don't get to talk about it.
If that has happened.
But this one, as far as the chair is usually